Hey guys, welcome to Ask Jungle Scout episode number 13. This is the show where we answer your top FBA questions. Joining me today again, I have Carrie from the CX team. Welcome, Carrie.
Hi. Hello. Thanks so much for having me again. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you again and to help me out answering some of these questions. So if you guys have any questions for us, make sure to drop them in the comments section below. To get started, we're going to answer a few questions that have been submitted to the team previously. Then we're going to jump into the chat box to answer your questions live. So what do you think, Carrie? Want to get started?
Yep, let's get started. I'm excited.
Yep. Let's do it. Alrighty. So we'll cut to the first question here. And that one is from Andy, who says, does Jungle Scout's web app cut out the keyword gathering from merchant words? Or in other words, I guess, does Keyword Scout tool replace merchant words? What do you think, Carrie?
Yeah, I've used merchant words in the past, and when you search on merchant words, maybe you search for a cup or something like that, they'll say green cup, blue cup, big cup, and they'll use that word within all of the search results. Whereas Keyword Scout is a bit more sophisticated than that. It actually takes all kinds of related keywords to that people are actually searching on Amazon and puts some related keywords together. So, for example, if you are looking for maybe cat toys, it'll show you a bunch of different types of cat toys as well as, just basically all the keywords that would be related to that. So it's a bit more sophisticated. Also, you can use it for research just to see, you can find some good niches by seeing all the different related keywords. So it's actually a much more sophisticated. It's going to give you a lot more. It's going to help you connect with a broader audience because of the sophistication of the results.
Excellent. All right, yeah. So on to the next question. I totally agree with that one. Let's look at the next question, and that one is from Rudy, who asks, so if you want to sell as a brand, you have to grab a domain, but without having the website, right? I think what they're saying here is if you want to sell as a brand, do you have to get the domain, and do you need to get the website as well? And so I've got some thoughts on this, but I'll see what you think, Carrie.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that if you're going to start a brand, it's a good idea to get that domain and have that under your name, because otherwise someone else will and they'll try to sell it back to you. So yeah, just register that domain. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to set up something right away. Also wanted to go back and it used to be that you literally, to get brand registry, would only need to have a website that had your products on it, like and a brand name. And that's changed. Now, if you want to have brand registry, you have to go through a trademark process. It's a much more difficult process than it used to be. I mean, even 3 years ago, you literally could just send them your website. So I don't know if there's any confusion on that. Maybe you watched an old video where they talk about that. But to sell as a brand, you have to have trademark, and that will give you a trademark, and that will give you access to the enhanced brand content, posting videos, Amazon stores, and headline search ads, and a bunch of other things. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's like specifically for brand registry, you don't need a domain. Just to kind of clarify and recap, you don't need a domain. You need a trademark in order to get brand registry. But personally, I would purchase the domain anyway if I was looking to get something trademarked. It's a good sort of digital asset to acquire. So I think it is a good idea, but it's not absolutely necessary. And then if you do purchase that, you don't need to create a website. Like it's enough just to purchase it at least, and then you can create a website at any point. But the first thing you need to do is just purchase the domain so that you own it, so that no one else can grab that one. Excellent. Yep. Alrighty, so on to the next question, and that one is the UPC barcode required? If the product is my own branded product, the video says it is required at one point, but at another point you say that only the FN SKU code is needed. Can you please confirm? I know we always get questions regarding UPC and barcodes and so forth, so we'll try and clarify there. So To keep it fairly simple, it's like, yes, you do need a UPC barcode in order to create your listing. So you always need a UPC code to create a listing unless you have a GTIN exemption. The most common way to get a GTIN exemption is by having brand registry. Once you're brand registered, you can create new listings without needing a UPC barcode. So that's when you're creating a listing. When we're referring to the FN SKU, we're talking about when the packaging or the sticker that goes onto your product and goes into Amazon. You only need the FN SKU at that point. You can use a UPC, but we kind of recommend using the FN SKU. So when you're packaging your product, I would put the FN SKU on it. That's a separate thing to creating your listing. Hopefully I've made that clear. Is there anything else that you'd add, Carrie?
No, I think you covered it. That was very clear. So good.
Cool. Well, if anyone has any further questions, just let us know and I can try to clarify even further. Alrighty. The next question here, I think came in via email, or it might have been in another webinar, but is there a tool that I can use to project correct inventory? What do you think, Carrie?
Yes, actually, we just launched a new tool that can help you project your inventory. That inventory management is probably one of the most difficult things to do, especially when you're trying to scale your business and just make sure that you're not overstocked and get those fees, or you're not understocked and run out of inventory. So we actually have a tool within the Jungle Scout app that you can set up with different parameters that'll allow you to project when to reorder next, and just basically how to keep your product in stock so that you don't run out of inventory. So yeah, it's definitely makes it a lot easier. I know a lot of people really struggle with inventory management. So yeah, we have a great tool.
Yeah, it's one that I've been really excited about as well, because like you said, inventory management and just that is a really tough thing to manage, and it takes a little while to really dial that in. So I'm super excited that we've got that within Jungle Scout now as well.
Yeah, me too.
Alrighty, so on to the next question, and that one is, if you're teaching 225,000 people all these awesome techniques, won't it be almost impossible to find a product to sell since we all have the same knowledge? That's a challenging question. What do you think, Carrie?
I don't know exactly where this person got 225,000, but
it's on our website. That's how many. That's our customer base.
Okay, there you go. I was like, wait, that's a very, very specific number. So yeah, basically, I mean, there's millions and millions of products on Amazon. So there's tons and tons of opportunity, first of all. So I think a lot of times people think, oh, I have kind of a scarcity mentality with this kind of thing. But there's just massive, massive opportunity. Even just in the US, I think only 5% of online sales were on Amazon. So that's 95% growth opportunity right there. I mean, Amazon just keeps getting bigger and growing and dominating. And not everybody takes action. Let's be honest. There's only certain people who actually will start to take action. So maybe you could be one of the people who takes action. We just had an email that came in the other day that was really inspiring. And it was a 17-year-old from the UK who launched a product in September and started selling, and has already sold 12,000 pounds in revenue. And I think it was a 34% profit margin already, and not even doing PPC because they just chose such a great product. And that was a 17-year-old. And so I think that's just a little example of the opportunity there is. I think in general, whatever you want to do, don't focus on what everyone else is doing. Just focus, have a goal and a purpose and a mission, and decide to launch those projects. I mean, just my own Amazon business, we're launching a few more products in the next coming months. And I don't think it's going to end there. We're just going to keep launching more. So there's just opportunity for people who take action.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, really just to add to your point, there is a lot of opportunity out there. It is really hard when you're just like sitting at home, or you're sitting by yourself, or like on these calls and things, to really comprehend how big the opportunity is. But yeah, I can't quite remember the stats as well, but I remember Greg talking about it. And I think I might have shared this in a previous Ask Jungle Scout, but hearing Greg recently, it was something like, yeah, it was 5 or 10, might have been like 10% of all sales or retail sales or whatever are online. So only a very small fraction of all retail actually is happening online. So there's huge opportunity, and it's very obvious that, you know, online sales are taking over, but it's still only a small fraction of all sales. So there's a huge growth in the amount of online sales. But then within the online sales, Amazon dominates, it's like 50 or 60%. I think it might be closing in on 60% of online sales. So of that market, Amazon is dominating and growing more and more. So that's the key here, is that Amazon is actually growing. So yes, there are more sellers that are coming into the space, but at the same time, there's, you know, a lot more demand because there's more and more customers shopping on Amazon. So while the you know, supply and demand is both increasing, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity for years to come, I would say at this point.
Yeah,
for sure.
And not only that, they keep opening up new markets, the Middle East, India, Australia was just this last year, Australia. So, I mean, there's new markets opening constantly. There's just, I mean, just to know this is still the beginning. It's not even, we're not even scratching the surface yet, really. It's just going to be even more massive. I mean, I couldn't have even imagined what Amazon is doing now, you know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So, you know, just remember that, you know, there's things, it's just much bigger than you think. So, yeah.
I guess just to wrap that up as well, like you mentioned earlier, not everyone takes action. You know, for instance, we're very proud to have, you know, helped 225,000 people, you know, that have been using Jungle Scout, but unfortunately not everyone takes action. And that's just kind of the nature of any sort of online business, or really business for that matter, is that, you know, lots of people like the idea about it, they like the idea of it, but, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work to actually get the results. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to be one of those people. Alrighty, so with that in mind, let's go on to the next question.
All right.
And that one is, after I find a supplier I want to use, how does the supplier know which fulfillment center to send the item to? Do you just give them an address? How does FBA know it's coming from you? Do you want to take this one, Carrie?
Sure. Yeah. So you're going to go into Seller Central and you're going to create a shipment, and you're going to use the address of the factory that's shipping it. And then once you create that shipment with their address, it'll tell you which fulfillment center that it needs to go to. At that point, you're going to put in the weight and dimensions of the shipment. So you need to get that from the factory. So you put in all that information, and then it'll give you, you're going to choose, you know, UPS for the shipping, and you'll get the labels, and you can send those labels to the factory and they can put those labels on your packaging. So I know it seems like kind of crazy when you haven't done it yet, but it's all worked out in Seller Central.
Yeah. So it is a fairly straightforward thing. If you haven't done it, then I can understand you feeling a little bit, you know, just kind of curious about it. So yeah, as Carrie said, you essentially create the shipment in Seller Central, get that address, you send it to your supplier, and then they can take care of it from there. Alrighty, so I think that wraps up all of the questions that we had sent into us, or that are on our various channels. Now let's dive into the chat box. I think there's been quite a number of questions already, which is awesome. Again, if you guys have any questions, make sure you drop them in the chat box. We're gonna try and smash through as many, or we're gonna try and get through all of them today, or as much as we can within the hour. Alrighty, so first question I'm gonna bring up here is from Maz. This is an interesting one. You showed us how to do product research and use filters like price being between $15 and $60, the number of maximum reviews, etc. That means that everyone is doing exactly the same and will see the same results. Now, there's a good reason for this. So Firstly, I'd say that we do encourage people to try different filters. I know exactly what you're saying. If everyone is using the same filters, we're all going to see the same results. But essentially, when we're onboarding and training people to use our tool, people need a starting point. They need, if you're brand new to this and you've got no idea where to start, I guess people don't really want to be told like, oh, just kind of play with the filters and experiment with different things. So we like to give people some fairly safe parameters to get started, get familiar with how to perform a search. But then once they've done that, we do encourage people to play with different filters, and we try to explain all the different filters that you could use and using different combinations. One thing that we have done is you can actually load presets of filters. So within the Jungle Scout product research tools, you just click load preset, and there's actually 4 or 5 different presets that we've created. So there is like a few different ones there, but you also have the opportunity to save your own filters. So I definitely see your point. That's really just a starting place for customers to help them understand the process. But to your point, yes, it is a good idea to vary up your filters. And if you watch any or some of our product research videos like on YouTube or elsewhere, we do talk about other strategies that you can use to vary it up. Like for instance, a lot of the time we do talk about looking for products at least $15 or $18 and higher. But I know that I've talked before in the past about, sometimes it can be interesting to look at products that might only be selling for $8 to $12. Sometimes I look for cheap products and then see if I can find ones that I can bundle something with to kind of increase the product price. So there are lots of different ways that you can go about it. And if you look at, some of our video material, you'll see different ideas on different ways to search.
Yep, I agree that it's just a time to get creative, so
yeah.
There's just so many ways to do product research. You can also even just be looking on Instagram. What kind of ads are you seeing? What kind of products are showing up online or out at the stores? And then you can use those keywords and search those. There's just so many different things you can do with it. So yeah, once you get into it and practicing and using different filters, you're going to start to see where you want to keep going, what filters you want to use most, or how you want to strategize. So yeah,
absolutely,
excellent.
Alrighty, thanks for your question, Maz. Let's have a look at this one. And the question is, hey guys, how do you calculate the best price for your product to sell? For example, your product might be better than the competitors, but making it more expensive will possibly hurt your sales. Yeah, that's a really great question. I suppose offhand, the first thing that comes to mind is like there is, I don't know if there is necessarily a set way to go about it. I'm sure there are people that probably do have it in more of a formula, but the way I personally think about it is you need to decide, like, are you selling a more premium product that you think you could sell for more? If you are doing that, you do need to be clear on, is my target audience willing to pay extra for a better product? Like, do they actually care if it's just, I don't know, a disposable item, for instance, like paper plates or something? People aren't probably gonna care about having premium ones that are, I don't know, whatever, got gold trim or something. You need to know that you need to do some market research to determine that your audience will, in fact, pay a little bit more. But if you have determined that like, yeah, I think this is, this audience does care about quality, and I would get that information from within reviews. So checking your competitors' reviews and seeing, do they often talk about a lack of quality in these existing listings? That's a good indicator that, yeah, people would be willing to pay for a better one. If you have determined that, yeah, the question is, how much more do you charge? That's a question I'm not sure about. I'd maybe, if there aren't any other premium products on Amazon, maybe I'd try other websites or other online marketplaces to see if you can get some kind of gauge of what a premium product in your sort of market would be priced at, and maybe use that as a gauge. But otherwise, I'd probably just experiment. Start with a few dollars or whatever seems to be a good price that still keeps your, still gives you a good profit margin. Do you have any thoughts, Carrie, in terms of how you would calculate your price?
Yeah, when I first launch a product, I usually go in a little bit lower because I want to get those initial sales. So that is kind of my initial
Right.
strategy, to go a little bit lower. But I know with Jungle Scout or our Jungle Sticks, we raised the price, and we ended up with a lot more revenue by doing this, because I think there's also a perceived value when something is more expensive. People think, oh, this is probably better, especially if you have a better quality listing than that competitor or your other competitors. So again, yeah, I think it is an experiment, and you don't want to go too high. But I know, like, when I looked at the numbers, our competitors were making more sales, but our revenue was much higher. So that's something to think about as well. But yeah, you do have to play around with it again at the beginning. I would kind of go in a little bit lower with a stellar listing, so that you can portray that quality with your listing. And then once you get those initial sales and reviews, you can start to increase the price. And usually I increase it gradually just to see what happens when I do that. And yeah, so that's what I would say.
Exactly. That's what I do as well. Launching a product, I normally price it a bit lower just to get those initial sales and so forth. And then as I'm starting to increase it to what my sort of ideal price is, I would sort of do that in increments as well and only change it a couple of dollars at a time. The other suggestion I'd have here is using a tool of ours called Splitly at splitly.com. And here you can actually perform split tests. For instance, you could test one price versus another, so $20 versus $22, for instance. And what that will actually do, it will, firstly, if you are considering split testing, it is a bit more of an advanced method. You do need to have a reasonable amount of sales. I'd say 10 sales per day at the very minimum, but ideally maybe like 15 sales or more per day. That will get you the quickest results. And then what it does, it will split test these two different prices each day. Generally speaking, you'd need at least 2 weeks to kind of run this backwards and forwards. But essentially, at the end of that period, once it reaches statistical significance, it's got enough data to be confident about which change has performed better. You'll get all this information, such as the conversion rate, the number of sort of sessions or like page views, the profit margin and the revenue, so that at $20 versus $22, you can see which one actually got you more profit. Sometimes you might see that you might have less sales slightly, but you might actually get more profit, which is what Carrie was mentioning. So that's another idea of a way that you can actually collect data to compare one price versus another. But again, it is a slightly more advanced strategy.
Yep,
Alrighty.
I agree. Splitly is awesome.
Yeah. Let's see, what have we got here? Okay, this is a straightforward one, I believe. Dominique asks, can I start making my listing in Amazon Seller Central before completing my order in Alibaba? What do you say, Carrie?
I guess I always have completed the order first, but you can, if you create a UPC, you can create a UPC code and create everything before that. I guess I usually just kind of do it right before I list the product and have it in hand. What do you do usually, Lenny?
Yeah, I mean, essentially the short answer is like you can do that. You can create your listing before you've ordered the product or anything. If you're absolutely certain that you are going to go with this product or you're going to go with this supplier, then you can create the listing. I mean, I suppose even if you did change your mind on selling that product, there's no real harm lost if you've created a listing other than losing, if you paid for the UPC code. So there is no harm in doing it. But normally, yeah, I'm like you, Carrie. I normally create that once I've placed the order, purely just because at that point of placing the order, I've still got, you still generally have, a few weeks before that product lands at Amazon. So yeah, it's not so much out of strategy that that's the point that I do it. It's more so up until that point, I've just been focused on working with the supplier and going backwards and forwards, trying to, like inspecting my samples, choosing my supplier, and I'm just focused on getting that done. Then once I'm happy with that, I've placed the order. Then for me, the next logical step is like, okay, I've got a few weeks now. Now it's time to create my listing, take my photos and set that up. So you can do it really at any point, but generally speaking, as Kerry and I mentioned, we'd just sort of do it when it's a little bit closer to going to Amazon. Cool. Let's see. Okay. I mean, I think we sort of answered this, but we can quickly just kind of read it out. There's a question from Chocolate Boy. He says, I'm worried about competition and saturation. How do I avoid dealing with this? And also, what is the outlook for private label in 2020? Actually, one thing that I will mention that I can add on to a little rant before about the growth and opportunity within Amazon is that with Amazon brand registry, Amazon is really sort of consolidating the seller marketplace. So I love Amazon brand registry because yes, it is harder to get, but I like that because that's really gonna whittle down the people that are serious to the ones that aren't. So there's gonna be lots of people who are like, oh, I don't wanna get a trademark, or it's too expensive, or whatever else. And so just the people that aren't perhaps really serious about this are gonna drop off and not compete. Or if they don't use brand registry, you've got a competitive advantage. So the people that are willing to treat this like a real business, jump in, get Amazon brand registry. It's very, very clear that that's sort of the future of selling on Amazon. It's just gonna give you the most range of benefits and support. The people that do that are gonna have a competitive advantage over the people that don't. So, what I see, and with Amazon, often changing their TOS, there are, some downsides to that. Like there are various things even at the moment where it might be harder to get reviews, for instance, because they're kind of restricting you in terms of how many emails, or like some of the email restrictions and so forth. So certain things are getting harder, but the people that are willing to put in the work are going to be able to get ahead. My point with all this is that, Amazon's consolidating the market so that only serious sellers can exist. And so I think that's a good thing because that does whittle down the competition. You just need to be really serious about doing this. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's good. A good answer.
Cool. All right, so yeah, the Manila folder says, I can't have a GTIN exemption without a registered brand. Now, I don't know the specific answer to this. I don't know if there is a specific answer to this, but from my understanding, yes, the easiest way, or really the best or easiest way to get a GTIN exemption is having brand registry. I do believe that you can apply for it regardless without brand registry, but I've never heard of anyone actually getting it. So but to be honest, I don't know a lot about that. I don't know, Kerry, if you've had any experience with getting GTIN exemptions or not?
No, I've just worked on some accounts because I was a freelancer and I helped manage some accounts before that they were registered brands, so they didn't need a UPC code,
Right.
and I created listings, so I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I do know that I've only worked with registered brands doing that, so.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, so we don't have a solid answer, but that's my understanding, if that gives you a bit of an idea. Okay. This is an interesting question. Do you use subject matter? The subject matter field in the back end, is it indexed? Have you used this one before, Kerry?
I use the audience always.
Yeah.
I actually was just thinking about this.
Is that subject matter, or is that no? That's a different one, isn't it?
I'm
trying to remember.
The what field?
Oh, sorry, the 6th bullet point. It's one of those fields. I can't remember offhand which one it is.
You can't do the 6th. I tried to do the 6th one the other day. It didn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work?
So
Oh, okay, I haven't done it in a long
no,
time.
it didn't work.
Yeah.
I forget which one it was, but I think it was subject matter that
Right.
used to create your or material or something like that. It might have been material.
Right.
But I tried to do it and it didn't work. So I think they've caught on that. And
Right.
what we were talking about is they used to be able to fill in one of these fields and get a 6th bullet point. It was kind of a little hack, but I think I don't know if anyone else has been able to do it, but I wasn't able to do it the last time I tried. So,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I try to fill in as much information as I can about the product.
It can't hurt.
I don't know about, yeah, exactly. It can't hurt. I don't know about the indexing of the subject matter. I definitely choose an audience. So I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but that's definitely something I'll look into and, try to get. I don't know if we'll talk about that next time, but that's something I do want to look into a little bit more.
From my experience, I don't think Amazon, Amazon, I don't think has specified exactly what gets indexed or not, I believe, for a lot of those fields, or it's very much a gray area. I think like some people talk about some of those fields being indexed and actually having an impact, and others sort of say like, I can't see any difference filling in those versus not. So I don't think there's a clear answer as to whether it's indexed or not. But yeah, personally, I'm with you, Kerry. I just fill out a lot of those just in case, because it can't hurt to have those fields filled out, but it's not my first priority when I'm, going through and doing kind of SEO type stuff.
Yep. All right.
Alrighty. Oh, this is an interesting question. From Rob. Hi guys, if you source a product but it's too small to put your logo on, is it advisable to just put it on the box to help against hijackers? The product will be brand registered. Thoughts, please. Yeah, so I'd say like it's best practice to put the logo on your product if you can. Like that would be the ideal. If, like you said, it's too small, I'd definitely put it on the packaging. The packaging is something that is very easy to control, so it shouldn't take too much work or engineering to kind of get a logo on your packaging. I'd imagine that your packaging would be, big enough to fit a logo. So I would definitely do that. That would be my personal recommendation. Brand registry does give you a lot more protection, but I'm a fan of, putting all the odds in your favor. So it's like, yep, I've got brand registry, but I've also got my logo clearly displayed on my packaging. It's just another thing in your favor if someone does try to create a counterfeit of your product, and they're just using a generic box or whatever else. It's just another way that you can help prove that, yours is legitimate and someone else's isn't. So I would certainly recommend that. Plus, I think it's, it's great for the customer experience as well to kind of see nice packaging. Yeah. Not every single product people are expecting nice packaging. It does depend, it does vary a little bit between categories or the type of product, but just as a general rule of thumb, I'd put at least my logo on the packaging. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Kerry.
Yeah, I mean, just being brand registered, that's going to help you because people can't get on your listing if you're brand registered unless you allow them to. So that should help as well. But I don't know, maybe there's a way you could
absolutely necessary, but I'd still do it.
Yeah, definitely. If you can figure out a way to stamp a little tiny logo, that'd be a great idea. Just so that especially just to build your brand awareness over time. So
cool.
And thanks, Rob. He's been on a lot of these, so I'm glad he's still coming to and asking good questions. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shout out to Rob. Thanks for always joining and asking good questions.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. Error 404. Oh, no, I successfully failed on my Christmas tree. You had a successful failure. Okay, how's that work? I spend a lot of PPC, but only 6 pieces sell from 30. I have learned a lot from my mistake. What can I do now? I don't want to stop. Give me advice for my new product. Cool. Well, I am glad that you've got a positive outlook on this. I'm glad that you have seen this as a learning experience, because that's what I see from this, is that it is ultimately a learning experience. I'm positive that, you know, you going through the motions of selling a product on Amazon, has taught you a lot. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot quicker and easier. You're going to avoid mistakes the next time you do it. So I'm really glad that you're going to persevere with this, even though you're left over with a few bits of inventory. So yeah, give me some advice for my new product. Well, Jungle Scout is kind of my advice. Go to the, we've got a whole bunch of tools there. Like we've got a brand new opportunity finder tool, which is really great at finding products. There's also the product database. Without, I suppose, diving into product research, check out Jungle Scout. We've got our academy inside of Jungle Scout, which has got a lot of videos that teach you how to do product research and how to use our tools. So that's probably my recommendation of a starting place. Follow those steps and guidelines, and that will get you started.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Just follow those guidelines of not getting a product that's so competitive. Christmas trees are very competitive space. They're also oversized. So we give you some parameters, especially, when you're first starting out, that are going to help you be more successful. Mm-hmm. So definitely checking out all those tools in the academy that explains exactly the process and things to avoid when you're first starting out. I think that'll be very helpful for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in terms of the Christmas trees specifically, one of the topics that we talk about in Academy is seasonality. And so, our Jungle Scout tools can help determine the seasonality of a product. So, Christmas trees are ones that are very, very seasonal. They sell a lot in November, December, but then they'll drop off for the rest of the year. So, one thing, you can sell seasonal products, but for most people starting out, we recommend just to stay away from that, or in terms of a long-term business, you probably want to stay away from that. So we do cover things like that in Academy, so you'll be able to learn specifically about those sorts of things.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm just trying to understand this one. So Bupesh says, hi, I used the JS keyword tool and I see the PPC cost mentioned by JS is different than Amazon for the same keyword, and which is way higher than JS. Basically, JS says $1, for example, and I'm assuming Amazon then says $12. So context for this, I think what Bupesh is asking here or is saying is that within Keyword Scout, when you search for a keyword, each one, it gives you an idea of our recommend PPC bid. We would say that if you want to rank on this particular keyword, baby hooded towels, then we recommend on that particular keyword, you would need to bid at least, let's say, $1 in order to, appear at the top page of search results, I believe, for that particular keyword. And so what I think Bupesh is saying here is that when he goes to Seller Central, I'm assuming it's the recommended bid. So when you set up PPC campaigns and you're looking at keywords, Amazon gives you I think it's suggested bid or like a recommended bid that they recommend. And so I think he's saying that, these are different. I guess without seeing it specifically, I'm not quite sure why there's a difference there. What I'd recommend, if you are seeing a big discrepancy like that, then reach out to our customer support team. If you go into Jungle Scout, there's like a little support widget down the bottom right corner, a little question mark. You click on that one, and that can help you out with some information, or you can reach out to our customer support team at support@junglescout.com. If you let us know the keyword and the two numbers that you're getting inside of Jungle Scout and Seller Central, we can kind of help you figure that out. So it's hard to say, what might be happening there without seeing the specific keyword, I think. But I just wanted to mention that one because that is a really neat feature within Jungle Scout, being able to see the suggested bid for PPC. I suppose also
if you can take Sorry.
Yeah.
If you can take screenshots and send those in, that'll be helpful for them to be able to see, like screenshots of the Seller Central as well as on Jungle Scout. That'll help.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing that could come to mind is making sure that, you know, in Jungle Scout, we've got the PPC bid for broad match and exact match, and those can be very different. And so I'd also make sure that the campaign that you're setting up or the ad set that you're setting up in Seller Central is the same match type, whether that be broad, phrase, or exact. Well, Jungle Scout just has the broad and exact, so make sure that you're looking at the same ones, because there could be a big difference between broad and exact as well. So that's something to keep in mind. That possibly could be the solution there. Okay. Let's see. On to the next page. Let's see. A question from RSA saying, how do you bundle products for Amazon according to their TOS? It is confusing. Okay. So I'm curious which part of their TOS is confusing. Just to clarify, what you can't do is have two separate listings with two different products and get Amazon to bundle them and sell them for you. That's something that the Amazon won't do. They won't bundle a product for you. Essentially, the bundling happens at sort of the manufacturing end, or before you create the listing or whatever else. You know, you decide to bundle two products together, you package them into one unit and then send that to Amazon. You create a listing that advertises that one bundled product. That sort of counts as one product. So I don't know of any TOS offhand that applies to bundling. Is there any TOS or anything that you can think of that would apply to this situation, Carrie?
Yes, I think that one thing to keep in mind is that products need to be related. So, for example, you can't do a pair of socks and a hammer. You know, those don't go together, but you could do, you know, a bundle of like maybe a shirt and boxers that's like a set, or you can do multiple packages of the same product, maybe like a 3-pack or a 5-pack or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, just make sure that they all go together somehow. Maybe, you know, there's a kit of some sort where you get all the different tools you need, maybe for cooking, like you need a baking set. All those just have to be related. That's the main thing you need to make sure that you do when you're bundling a product.
Cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's obviously going to be, you know, better for your business. The more that the products are related, the more likely it is to sell. You know, we always talk about one good way to kind of figure out products to bundle is to look at existing listings and see what's frequently bought with that one product. And so usually it's something that either accompanies it or is in the same kind of field. And so it makes perfect sense to bundle that product. But if there is a different part of TOS that is confusing you, then please let us know, and we can see if we can dissect that a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, this is an interesting question. Are there any freight forwarders that you recommend for sellers who aren't from Australia or New Zealand and don't have an LLC? Flexport requires you to have a US LLC. So I haven't worked with a bunch of freight forwarders. I suppose I don't know offhand about freight forwarders specifically that you know, don't require you to have an LLC. You know, because I think I did. Well, actually, when I first used, you know, Flexport, for instance, I was back in Australia, and I think I had an Australian company, and that seemed to tick the bill. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what. Yeah, I suppose I don't know if you can use a freight forwarder without having some kind of entity. You know, I suppose generally speaking, I'd recommend I'd probably recommend getting an LLC in most cases anyway. But yeah, I'm not sure whether you could use, for instance, Freightos.com is a great resource to collect a lot of quotes from different freight forwarders. Possibly within there might be a way to kind of filter out freight forwarders that, maybe don't require you to have an LLC. But I think maybe it's for, do you know, Kerry, is it for like insurance purposes or something like that they generally require you to have an LLC? I don't really know all the technical stuff.
I don't really know the reasons. I just have it, and we use Hackney, so I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of from another country. So yeah, I'm sorry. That's a good question though.
Cool, yeah. So we don't know any specific ones, unfortunately, but maybe you could collect some quotes on Freightos, and then even if there's no information there, then you could at least see the names of a bunch of different freight forwarders, and then maybe visit each of their websites or reach out to them all, and hopefully that might help you find some. Or maybe go to like our Facebook group, Amazon FBA Competitive Edge. That's another really great resource. I'd post the question there, and there might be other people who've had the exact same experience and might be able to recommend something for you. Let's see, are there any questions that are jumping out to you, Kerry? I can see there's quite a few there now, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot. We can talk. There's any suggestions for new launch techniques for a brand, i.e. no mailing list, also how to acquire reviews, and how many reviews do you need to be able to convert more consistently?
Good one. Launching and getting reviews is a hot topic. What do you think, Kerry?
Well, the reviews now, there is a button that about 4 days after somebody places an order with you, you can, on Seller Central, under your order details, click request review, and then Amazon will request a review from that customer. So that's probably the best way to get reviews at this point, in terms of, because I don't think the emails are going to be, there's a bunch of different things that have changed with email that you can't do now. So it's very tricky, and you don't want to get shut down asking for reviews via email follow-ups. So that's probably the best way to do it. You can also do chat bots or Facebook advertising, and create a list with chat bots and follow up with them on just via Messenger to get reviews or ask them for reviews. And you probably want to start building a mailing list of people who are interested in your product. It does take time, but then you can use that same mailing list for later on. Then you can also use that list to make lookalike audiences on Facebook to spread your product awareness that way, for people that would be potentially interested in your product. I know the chatbot rules are changing as well. I haven't actually gotten up to speed on the new chatbot rules starting in 2020, but there's definitely some more parameters around that. So it is going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of getting reviews. But I would still say, to do all the different things that you possibly can. Use Jump Send, like on our Jungle Scout tools, to give a discount to people and get some sales going that way. And, Facebook advertising, Instagram's a great way. I think the best thing though, and I've realized that I've purchased quite a few items this way, is influencers. Okay. When I see an influencer that I follow and they recommend a product, I'm like, that's an interesting product I'd never even heard of. Like the other day, one was doing a giveaway of Smart Sweets, and it's this little, it's a gummy candy that they use like fruits and vegetables instead of all the kind of other gunk in their product. And I'm like, that's really interesting. I literally went out to Target and purchased the item. That's just an example. So I think that if you find the right influencers that are related to your product, I think that's probably one of the best ways right now to reach your audience. Giveaways through them. You can do giveaways on your own Instagram, start building that, have them, an influencer follow your page and theirs in order to enter into some of these giveaways. There's a lot of different things. You really need to get creative. But I honestly think the best way is influencers. I don't know what you think, Lenny, but I just know that it works on me all the time. And I used to be like, oh, I'm above all those impulse buys, but clearly I'm not. I've purchased quite a few products this way.
Yeah, I'd agree, actually. I haven't used influencer marketing personally, but I've talked to a lot of people and heard a lot of stories of success. And I do like it because I think out of a lot of these methods, even chatbots and so forth, it feels like a very sort of safe kind of way where I can't really see how I don't really feel like you're doing anything that could go against Amazon's TOS or anything. It just feels like a really great way to get a lot of exposure and sending traffic to your listing. So yeah, I think that's a really great one. But yes, in terms of sort of the traditional ways that we normally would talk about or on Amazon, it is a bit of a tricky time because it does feel like we're right in the middle of Amazon changing a bunch of things and really cracking down on a certain number of things. So we're just, at this point, things could change even more over the next, little period of time. So we'll do our best to keep on top of that and keep you guys updated on our findings. But yeah, I think, Carrie, everything you said is basically the best advice at this point in time.
Yeah. And I also want to just say this is probably just another shifting point with Amazon. Before, a few years ago, you were able to give away products for reviews, and then they banned that and we had to shift. There's always going to be some little tweaks, but then there's always going to be some new creative way to reach your audience. So this is just a shift in a different direction, not a roadblock. It's just a shift. So we just have to kind of adapt and move to the next thing and keep going.
That's a really great point. I love it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's a question from Angel who says, do you think that I need to buy a course for 1K plus, or is there enough free information like on YouTube to start a successful business? All right, so this is interesting because Greg has actually recently launched a brand new course. It's called the Freedom Builder Bootcamp. And so we are actually offering a course that's led by Greg, which is pretty awesome. I know a lot of people have been asking for him to do so for a long time. But to answer your question, is there enough free information to start a successful business? My honest answer is yes, absolutely. There is enough free information on YouTube and elsewhere to start a business. I never used a course to get started and, I've been successful. I know lots and lots of people that haven't done that. There's essentially, there's advantages though to having a course. Things like YouTube, for instance, you're often piecing together information maybe from different channels or different people. Sometimes you might have conflicting sources. You kind of have you just have more, I guess, sort of sifting through information that you've got to do yourself. Versus a course is more curated, more step-by-step generally. So there's advantages of a course being more structured. All the information you need is already in one place versus you having to find it. The other advantage of a course, like ours, for instance, is that Greg is performing some weekly live coaching as well. So you get more one-on-one access to Greg answering questions. And so that's a big advantage as well. Kind of having someone, a lot of people really benefit from having a little bit more sort of hand-holding through the process, not just being told how to do it from a video, but also kind of having contact with a mentor that can sort of help you throughout the way, give you feedback on the various steps or problems that you're encountering. So there are benefits to learning from a course or utilizing something like that. So that's kind of my answer. There are benefits to having a course, but no, most of the information is already out there if you're willing to look for it. So it's really up to you what is the best way that you learn. Would you have anything else to add to that, Carrie?
No, I think like especially just this case, I think what makes the course of Jungle Scout stand out is that one-on-one connection, because a lot of courses they are just recorded videos, and ours is, there's a bunch of video instruction plus there's the coaching, and I think that's probably the priceless part, is that coaching call. So if there is, if you're comparing the two, the coaching call courses, I think that should set those apart quite a bit, because that's really important to be able to ask questions and get some help that way. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a huge differentiator. But if you're not sure about that, then I'd start with the free information. See what you can piece together. Get started on the steps. We have a lot of great information here on our YouTube channel. We do our best to give you all the best content. So maybe start with the free information, but then if you start hitting roadblocks, you can't find your answers, then maybe a course is a good option for you. So hopefully that gives you some insight or pros and cons. Cool. Oh, here's a comment from Matthew who says subject matter is definitely indexed according to notes from people smarter than me. Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying. I'm glad that we could share that with everyone. So subject matter
Thank you.
Sounds like it is indexed. Wonderful. All right. The next question is, where and how can I find someone to make my logo and label on my product if I'm going to find a supplier in China? I suppose I'd see them as two different things. You need someone to design your logo, and then you get your manufacturer to print it or engrave it or whatever onto your product. So I would see those as two different things. Potentially your supplier may actually have connections or access to graphic designers and so forth. Or you could get that done in China, but in most cases, you definitely don't need to do that. We've got, a great resource called Jungle Scout Market, which is a marketplace designed for Amazon sellers. There's a whole bunch of graphic designers on there that can help you with your logo and packaging design and all of that type of thing. You get them to create it, and then you can just send your logo over to the manufacturer in China, and they can get it either printed or applied to your product, however that may be. So it doesn't have to be one supplier that can do all of that, is what I'd say there.
Yeah, and not only that, you can get people to do the package design, so you can get the dimensions from your supplier of the packaging that they have at the factory. You can give those dimensions to a designer that's on the Jungle Scout Market. They can they can place everything for you and have it printed. I would recommend that before actually doing the mass production, to have your manufacturer in China send you a sample of the packaging before you print everything. The reason for this is one time I saw, because I was a freelancer in the past, and they basically printed everything backwards on the logo on the packaging. Also, the ink sometimes, sometimes the ink that they use it fades and it's weird. Even though it might seem in a picture maybe they saturate it or something and make it look better. You want to have it actually in your hands and to make sure that it's the kind of ink that you want to use. Because here's another thing, like I remember I had a bunch of stickers printed, and the ink just went from a bright lime green to like this faded weird green very quickly. So just kind of testing things like that out, I think, is very beneficial, even if it takes a little bit longer and maybe costs a little bit. That's just been my experience. You don't want to have a run of a few thousand products with everything printed backwards or incorrectly, or the ink is bad or something like that. So that I highly recommend that, especially on that first run. And then also you can have an inspector and an inspection company do that for you as well. So all these things are super important, just because I've seen the pain it causes if you don't. Yeah, I'd
say that's probably important as well, particularly if you're going to get your FNSKU barcode printed onto your packaging. You need to make sure that is scannable, like it's not a funny size where it's too small or too big or something, or or the colors smudge or something and the barcode's not readable, because that's how Amazon determines that it's your product. So that's really important as well. But yeah, I guess an alternative to getting it sent to you is to get an inspection company to do it. Either one of those, I think, I totally agree. That's a good option.
Yeah, and I do think putting all that stuff permanently on your packaging is good, because I also have seen the factory label incorrectly.
Right.
So like, instead of, I basically have seen a bunch of returns for the wrong SKU. The color was wrong. I don't know, there's just a lot of things you want to make sure are correct on the packaging. So that's my recommendation. Cool.
Good call. Okay. Oh, RSA says, is it necessary to buy, I was going to say keep Keeper, but buy Keeper, or does JS have this feature? That's a really great question. We do, in fact, have historical pricing, so you can view products and see their historical price data, as well as historical sales, and we've got a whole bunch of sort of historical numbers now. So yeah, I don't think you would need to buy Keeper. I can't think of any reason to do so, unless I don't know what other features they have. I haven't explored Keeper too much. I have used it, for checking historical prices, but that's the only thing. So yeah, we definitely have that inbuilt.
Yep, that's all.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of arbitrage people use Keepa, but we have a lot of cool arbitrage tools now, so I don't think you need Keepa either.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Okay. Is it safe to purchase a UPC code from somewhere else and not GS1? This is another sort of common question that we get quite a bit. And just to keep it short and simple, there's no absolute answer here, but essentially the safest way to go about it is to go through GS1. It costs more, it is more expensive than these third parties, but it's the safest way to just ensure that you have no hiccups in the future, to ensure that you get to sleep at night. That's the safest way to do it. We have heard, lots of stories of people still using third-party barcodes, and I don't know, I hear a lot of people that are still fine using those, so it really depends on what your risk tolerance is. If you would prefer if you're really strapped and you want to save a few dollars right now, and you're willing to take a bit of a risk, then you could try third-party barcodes, but ultimately the safest way is GS1. Alrighty. Next question is, which is better to do a PPC match type? Broad, phrase, or exact? What do you think, Carrie? Or what do you do?
On PPC, I think I use a combination of all three.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a very big question to, because there's a whole lot of strategy that goes into that. But, you can start with the broad and then move into the phrase and exact. But I mean, yeah, I guess I use all three, even because sometimes we've seen that some things sell or just work better on one or the other. No rhyme or reason necessarily, but so it just depends, and I think it just takes a little bit of time to see. And so you'll start with those auto campaigns and start to pull data, and then start to segment it out a little bit better so that you can focus on where it's going to work best. But there's just so much involved in PPC. It's hard to answer that question, but we do have some PPC stuff coming out in the academy. And then I know, Lenny, in the boot camp that you're running, there's going to be a lot of PPC stuff in there, correct?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's like, again, PPC is kind of a rabbit hole, but just, from a broad level, like you just said, Carrie, there are two kind of things that people do up front, And one is you take your set of keywords and you just plonk them into, you create a broad match campaign with all of them, create a phrase match, and create an exact match. Create the 3 different ones and just put all the keywords in all of them, which is what I think you said that you do, Carrie, is just kind of use all of them, and you'll see that some keywords will perform better in others than others. Or the other way that I know a lot of people do is they'll just put it in broad match. They'll see how that runs. They'll take the most successful keywords from there and then put those into, say, a phrase and then an exact match. And so that's the other strategy that I see quite a lot. So those are kind of like 2 ways to go about it. So in terms of, which is a better way, it's like actually none are really better than the others. I guess, exact is kind of what is generally considered to be the best or the most targeted anyway. But there's, benefits. You really want to try all of them at some point and just kind of optimize them from there. So yeah, I wouldn't say one is better than any of the others. I would try all of the match types and see, what is performing best.
Yeah, you definitely will see. And so I don't really like the strategy of, starting with the broad and then moving it, because some words will just do better. I would say start all 3 at the same time. Some words are going to do better in broad, phrase, or exact, and you're going to be able to see those pretty clearly. I don't know why that is necessarily, but I don't know. I think a lot of people have seen that. So anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, likewise. I kind of like just to put them in all 3 just to start off with, because for me it's also just simpler and requires less time and so forth. I'm obviously optimizing those and kind of keeping an eye on the ACOS and spend and so forth, but I kind of like to just set them up at once, and then it's a little bit more set and forget. There's less work for me, so maybe I'm just lazy, but...
Nah. It's something else too, is maybe start with a smaller list of keywords.
Definitely, yeah.
Because it gets to be a lot to manage. So yeah.
Particularly broad match. So with like a broad match keyword, if you just have one keyword, whatever it is, like dog bowl or something, broad match is not just firing on dog bowl, but all the different variations with words in between, before and after. So it's testing out a whole bunch of different variations of that one word for dog bowl. And if you've got like, hundreds of keywords or whatever, even 50 or 100 keywords in that campaign, then your budget's gonna get, it's not gonna get through all of your keywords anyway, because it's trying to test out each one of these individual ones and expanding those to a huge sort of list of its own. So that's where having smaller lists of keywords is better, so that your budget can actually fire and test all of those keywords. Sweet.
Yep, agreed.
All right. All right, this is an interesting one. Hi, what do you suggest in this case? I'm on the way to launch my product, but in these days, one seller actually launched his product, and actually he does a good job, and it is better than mine. All right, this is an interesting question. Yeah,
I'm trying to find it. I can't see it on the screen yet. Hold on.
Oh, you can't see it on the screen?
Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. Okay. Cool. I'm on the way to launch my product, but in one seller actually launched in.
Yeah. What do you do if someone else launches what, well, I suppose it depends how and why it's better. Yeah, I guess it's like you just need to search for more value, find a way to pivot and provide extra value, real value or perceived value in your product.
Yeah, figuring out ways to differentiate. Also just finding those keywords that are going to bring in different streams of traffic maybe that they aren't. You can use our tools on Jungle Scout to find, do the reverse ASIN search, see what they're ranking for and all the keywords they're ranking for. Try to rank for those keywords as well as some additional keywords that you find in Keyword Scout. Make sure your photos are better. sometimes you can add a bonus in there, a bundle bonus that goes with your product, and that can make you stand out a bit more. Like maybe, for example, if it was a kitchen item, you could, and it was a baking sheet, you could have a free oven mitt or something like that. And people like free. Something else you can do to stand out on your listing is add a coupon code. And when somebody's looking through all the listings, there's this little green thing right there with a coupon, and that actually makes you stand out. So there's a lot of different little things. So I wouldn't just get down because somebody else is doing a great job launching, because in my space, there's a bunch of different competitors that are doing great as well. But you just do the best you can to promote your product in a bunch of different ways, and then you're going to be successful. So you have to think of it from a bunch of different angles and not just, oh, somebody else did it and they're doing a great job. Think of all the ways you can improve what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, that's a perfect answer. I love that. Just constantly go through and see what ways you can kind of improve this. So there's lots of different ways, like you said, to improve. Okay. Let's see. All right, so question from Rob. Any news on when you'll have a save feature added to the filters in inventory in JS so you don't have to keep switching it on? Thanks for the shout out earlier. I think I know I think I know what you're saying inside of inventory. Oh, hang on. Let me see. Have a save feature added to the filters.
You can actually save it.
Okay. Yeah, you'd probably be more familiar with sort of the product feature releases than I am, Carrie.
Yeah, so in inventory, you add in the product cost. If you go into the product cost section, you can save those product costs, and you're going to save all the information for inventory in there. And then if something changes, you can set a date and save another, like for example, maybe you got a better price, and that inventory comes in January, and you run out of the current inventory maybe mid-January. You can say mid-January starts this new price, and you can actually save all of that. You should be able to save. So I hope I'm answering your question. I'm not sure exactly if I'm answering that correctly, but I do know you can save those different parameters that you want for each product under product costs. So if you go into product costs, you should be able to do that.
Cool. All right, Rob.
Does that make sense?
Answers... I'm following you. Let us know, Rob, if that's the save feature that you're referring to, or if not, let us know, and we can perhaps follow up with you afterwards by email or something to kind of let you know, you know, if we've got that on the horizon and when that might be. Let's see, what other questions have we got? We'll take a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Actually, this is kind of a quick one. I think we've already kind of answered this one. Paul asks, is there a way to tell what keywords have been used that other products have been getting sales on, so then you can target these same keywords? I think that kind of relates to what you were just mentioning before, Carrie. It's sort of commonly referred to as a reverse ASIN search, where you can essentially search for your competitor's product or their ASIN, which is just the unique identifier for their listing. You search for your product, for your competitor's listing, it will tell you the keywords that they're sort of ranking for, or the ones that are sort of performing best or they're getting sales through. And then you can take those keywords and then bid on those yourself. So yes, there is a way. It's inside of our Keyword Scout tool.
And you can also take that reverse ASIN search as well and put it into the rank tracker to see, you know, what their rank is at any given time for each one of those keywords as well. And then you can also put those keywords under your product as well, so you can see yourself climbing and seeing if you're beating them in any ranks. So the cool thing about our rank tracker is you can track competition and your own listings. So that's a good way to kind of keep track of of how you're doing in regards to, you know, kind of moving up in the ranks once you do have that information. So yeah,
that's a good one that in the past I've liked to keep an eye on of, I usually just do it for sort of the top maybe 5 or 10 keywords for the product. But yeah, I definitely do like keeping an eye on the keyword rank for my competitors, just to kind of see how they are in comparison to me, particularly when you're sort of like neck and neck. So that's definitely a good tip.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Okay, Matthew is asking, does the request review button need your own template, or does Amazon automatically write the email request for you? So basically Amazon writes that for you, correct, Kerry?
Yep. I wish I had a screenshot of it, but we did do a blog post on this, reviews. It's one of our more recent in the last month or so. There's a whole blog post, and it does show little screenshots of what the customer actually sees, I do believe. So yeah, it's an Amazon template basically. They do it all for you. You just push the button.
Yeah, I guess it's like similar to, like in the past, Amazon does send out review requests sort of automatically to customers. So it's kind of, similar to that.
Yep.
All right. Let's see, another one from Matthew. How do you find influencer marketers? Do you use a PR company, or are you talking about Instagram and YouTubers? What would you suggest, Kerry?
I would suggest looking on Instagram first, and you could also use YouTubers as well, but I think Instagram is probably the best place. And there is a way that you can calculate. I forgot the website because I have it written somewhere else, but there's a website you can actually calculate how much that person should charge based on the number of followers and interactions that they have. Do you remember that? I sent the site to you, Lenny, before, but I forgot.
I'm trying to remember
where it is now.
The name is.
So
Social Blue Book.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So there's different companies that you can use to kind of gauge how much you should be paying the influencers, and you can actually just search for keywords on Instagram of things that are related to your products, or think about who your audience is. Maybe it's females, maybe it's young moms. Find influencers by searching hashtags and searching just regular. Actually, searching hashtags is probably the best way to do it. Finding mommy groups, or if you're selling a product to moms, or if it's for whatever type of group that you're looking at, search for those tags first and see who is in that space. It might take some time. You just kind of look around. You could use a company that does it, but you can easily do this on your own, following people that would be like, for example, if you have running shoes, you want to find runners that are on Instagram and influencing, and have a whole community of runners that, they give tips to, or even YouTube channel stuff. So I'd say that's the best way to start doing that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can Google and find lots of sort of like sites or agencies to kind of help hook you up with influencer, like Instagram influencers or YouTube or whatever else. So you can get someone to help you with that, or like Kerry said, you can do that yourself. Probably the main thing if you do it yourself is to, do a little bit of research in terms of what your expectations and so forth are, so that if you are organizing this yourself, you're very, very clear on, what you're paying and exactly what you're getting back from them, and just making sure that every little detail is very, very clear, so it doesn't ever get messy. I think that's maybe where people do have some trouble if they're doing it themselves, because they're, not super clear about what each party is doing or the expectations on both sides. So that can be the advantage, I guess, of like going through kind of a company that can just kind of manage a lot more of that for you, but you can definitely do it yourself. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, there's usually on their bio on Instagram, it'll say, DM, or this is the email for requests, or contact this for requests. And you can just either DM them or send them an email. Something else to look for, though, is if somebody approaches you, there is kind of a scam that I've gotten approached for this a few times for our brand.
Oh, really?
And basically they're like, oh, hey, I'm so-and-so and I've got 2 million followers. Just give me your free product and I'll promote you. And so that in itself is like, clearly, I mean, for example, one guy had 2 million followers, and he's like, all I need is a free product from you, and I'll just promote it. Well, clearly somebody with $2 million followers is going to charge money for that kind of thing. So, you know, you gotta, what I did to make sure was I took the email address that they sent from and compared it to the Instagram email address, and they were different. So there are some scams going on there too. So make sure you contact directly on the social media, on their social media page, whatever the email is, or, you know, sending them a direct message on there, and that's how you can communicate. Or text you, go directly to that social media page and contact them and say, hey, you know, just want to follow up with your request, and then you can make sure that you're protected that way. So I wish I didn't have to talk about that, but I've had it a few times happen, so it's not
that's a that's a bummer. That is good to mention, though. That is a good little disclaimer, as we are talking about influencer marketing. You don't want to get taken advantage of. All right, so let's answer one more question. Or let's see, how can where can I find it? All right, I'll try and blaze through these last few here. How and where can I find a good freight forwarder if I live in Canada and my supplier is in China? I mean, essentially, that's a very common situation with most people. A lot of people sell from outside of the US. I guess it depends also what market you're talking about, whether you're selling in Canada, in the US, but I'm going to assume that you're selling in the US. Most people are selling there, but a lot of people do sell from other countries. For instance, I've sold from Australia. And so that is very, very common. It doesn't matter too much to a freight forwarder. You know, again, I'd go to freightos.com is a great place to collect lots of different quotes, and they can pick it up from China, and then they can basically get it to, you know, the US or Canada, wherever it needs be. So it doesn't matter too much if you live in Canada or where you live. You know, most freight forwarders should be able to, you know, help you out, is what I'd say there. Let's see. And another one from CZ says, should I ask my supplier to pack the product? Could you introduce a good company to do packaging with high quality and not expensive? Normally, I would just get my supplier to pack my product. As we mentioned earlier, you can get a template from them to do customized packaging, and then they'll, you know, again, you know, just using packaging that they've already got. Sometimes, you know, your supplier will be happy to, if you want to change your packaging a little bit, they are generally quite accommodating for that. It'll maybe cost you an extra fee to change it, but essentially your supplier can do that. If you want something, packaging that is, you know, a little significantly different, or if your supplier can't do it, you want something out of a different material, stronger, better, fancier, you know, there can be, you can use a third-party packaging company to do that. So that I know a lot of people do as well. They'll get their product sent to someone else to get packaged. Offhand, I don't know or haven't used any other third-party packaging companies. I don't know if you have, Carrie.
No.
But I know you can do that, and I know a lot of people do.
And we just, you know, if you want a different type of packaging, you just tell them what you want, and they'll usually do it for you through the factory. Yeah. We've had some things where we wanted certain things shrink wrapped with a certain way, and they just were like, oh, and they weren't doing that before. They were like, okay, we'll do it. So
yeah, that's what I've kind of found as well. I haven't really needed to go to someone else just because my supplier's always been really accommodating.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. Bupesh says, after how many sales on the product tracker, is it better or a good idea to invest on that product? Yeah, I mean, it's, for me, I always say, and this is just kind of a rule of thumb, I always recommend people track a number of products for at least a couple of weeks. You know, ideally, the longer the better. The longer you can track products, you know, I would say, you know, how many sales do you need to see on the product tracker? I would just say, you know, as long as you need to be really confident in the number of sales that they're getting each day, because if it goes from like 3 sales one day to like 8 the next, and then like 15, and then it goes down to 2, it's like, oh, I don't really know how much this product is actually selling. But if you've got 14, 30 days worth of sales, you can you'll end up seeing what the average is. You'll see like some days are a little bit lower, some are higher, but generally it's around about this average amount. And once you see that for, at least a couple of weeks, you can be like, yeah, I'm pretty confident this product sells 20 units per day. I feel confident that, that's how much people are buying. So, that's kind of my rule of thumb, but obviously it's just more of a guideline. Do you have anything to add to that, Carrie?
No, I think that was well said.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if it's, with some products, you might need to track them longer than others. It sort of depends if it's, I guess, like slow moving or something. I guess maybe the only other exception I can think of is it's maybe a little bit harder during Q4, for instance. Like right now, if you're tracking products, they're probably all going to be, spiking up at the moment. So what I'd wait for at least 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe all of January. I'd kind of track products all through January to kind of get more of an idea. What do they sell like outside of Q4? That's probably the only other scenario I could think of. Yeah.
Sometimes I just use the extension, and that's pretty much it. Just to look at the sales history over time for a bunch of different keywords, and just kind of check it that way. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. I think the main thing is don't wait too long. Don't wait months. Make a decision. Look at all the data. Do your research. Make sure you're being diligent about looking at all the angles of that product. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually, because I do often say, track as long as you can. But yeah, I think that's a good idea to kind of give it a cap. Like I do feel like at least a couple of weeks is a good point where you can get a good amount of data to validate the sales. But yes, to your point, I definitely wouldn't recommend waiting a month or months for it. Probably like a month at the most if you had to. But for me, I try to wait at least a couple of weeks, but then launch as quickly as possible.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so Rob just kind of sent a follow-up. So it wasn't quite what he was after. He said, I meant for stock that is active, inactive. Let's see, so a save feature for that? For stock that is active, inactive.
Maybe the toggle and the product costs. I don't know, maybe we could get your email, Rob, and maybe have a side conversation a little bit more about that, and kind of get a better idea of what you're saying, because I'd definitely like to answer that question for you and help you out with that. And I can also let you know if something is on the horizon, because I do work with our product team a lot. So I've got a good understanding of where it's going as well.
Yeah, no, that would be great, actually. So, Rob, if you wanted to reach out and just send your message into support@junglescout.com and just mention Carrie in that one, and we can definitely get back to you. Because if it's not something that we did have on the horizon, we're always like looking to hear ideas for product improvements and things that we can add. So yeah, definitely love to kind of hear your thoughts in terms of what would be useful within that tool. All right. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Roberto says, why does my listing require approval, and what do I do? I guess it's kind of hard to say without knowing exactly what the product is. There are certain products that definitely do need approval. Again, without knowing your exact product, it's hard to kind of answer that. But what I would suggest is, if you're thinking about selling a product, one really quick and easy thing that you can do is, if you go into Seller Central, I think this is available to everyone, but there's sort of like I think there's like a beta for a new look on Seller Central. If you're inside of that new look, I think it's only in this one place, but you're inside of this new Seller Central. If you go to create a listing, you can type in the name of the product that you're wanting to sell, and it will actually show you if that product requires approval or not. So you can just, and you can do this, just during product research. If you're looking at products and like, oh, that looks like a good idea, you can actually go to this create a listing in Seller Central and type in that product, and it will tell you if that product needs approval or not. So that's like a really quick and easy way to to figure that out before you go, you know, deeper into product research and sourcing. But in terms of your specific listing, again, I'd recommend maybe reaching out to us at support@junglescout.com. We might be able to help you out and might be able to give you some insight there. But if you do search for, you know, what would you search for? Like Seller Central, you know, listing restrictions or like gated categories or something, you can also see kind of a list of the categories and so forth that require approval.
Yeah. And I think the main one in Q4 is toys. You can't enter the Q4 selling toys for the first time. So there's a bunch of little different restrictions that you can find on just look on Seller Central. I think that'll actually be faster. The Q&A or just the help area on Seller Central is where you can get the fastest answers for these types of things.
Right.
So because it has it all in mind.
Alrighty. All right, so let's just do this one as a lucky last question from Paul. What does it say? I used maybe it's not a question. I used the JS product tracker for a few weeks and it showed daily sales of a product over 20 per day, but a different software inventory level tracker showed no movement in their inventory levels. Yeah, that's interesting. Again, we probably need to get more specifics on that one to be able to kind of figure out what's happening ultimately. So yeah, I mean, what could be happening? Yeah, it kind of depends on what software you're looking at. Also, the other thing as well is we're not just using inventory, the change in inventory to determine the sales. We're using like a number of different ways to kind of match that data together, because what people can do is they can limit the number of inventory being purchased per day. Essentially what that means is that the old 999 trick where you could, you know, check the number of inventory one day and then you check it the next and subtract the difference, that doesn't always work anymore. And so maybe that's what's happening in this instance, is another software is saying like, oh, their inventory is 20 and then 20 and 20. And like, cause maybe they've got a cap or something on the number of sales per day. So maybe that's actually what's happening with this other software you're using. Whereas the Jungle Scout product tracker isn't just using the inventory levels, it's using other data as well to determine the sales. But yeah, again, if you wanted to write in, we might be able to give you some more specifics on that.
Yeah, I mean, our data science team works really, really hard to make all of this very accurate, and we definitely have the best data. Since we've been doing this for the longest and kind of are the pioneers of the whole market, we have an amazing data science team. So that's why we're able to get these more accurate, sophisticated results than some other tools. You know, there's definitely a big investment that needs to be made in order to have good data. And that's what we've done, is invested a lot of money in data science. So we do have, you know, just amazing data. So I would definitely trust, when I've actually tracked and compared with my own, it's been most accurate for me when I compare to my actual numbers. So
absolutely. Yeah. Cool. All right, I know I said it before, but this one is the very, very lucky last. Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer, so I'm sorry, Bhupesh, but I didn't want to, I saw that one there, so I want to at least address it. How about tax filing, as I am new to Amazon, no idea at all. This is a hard one because tax, unfortunately, is very, very difficult in a lot of gray areas and so forth. It's, to be honest, it's not something that I've figured out myself. And so I don't have anything to suggest, but yeah, hire somebody to help is really the only thing that I could sort of suggest at this point, because it is very difficult to figure out and there's always a lot of changes. So unfortunately, I can't help you, but I at least wanted to acknowledge your question. So thanks for that one.
Yep. And have a good bookkeeper during the year. You can hire freelance bookkeepers too, and they can keep track of stuff for you all year long, so it's not a mess by the time you need to do the taxes. And you can hire an accountant. That I wouldn't want to mess with it unless I always hire somebody. It's just too painful.
Yeah. And then like other sites, for instance, like TaxJar, for instance, can be like a good resource to kind of help with that or manage that for you. Awesome.
Yep.
All right, guys, so we'll wrap it up there today. I hope you've got some value from all these questions. It's been a long one today, so thank you for sticking around if you're still here. If you have got some value from today and got some value from our answers, please give us a thumbs up down below on this video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell icon so that you don't miss any other videos from us. Until the next Ask Jungle Scout, thank you so much for viewing, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
All
Bye.
right. Yeah.